In the previous video, we said that by narrowly focusing upon the crowding out effect, we find that Republicans win because tax cuts would give us a smaller crowding out effect. Okay, so it will crowd out less of the private investment. Now here, let's check out round two. Okay, in round two, we focused upon which policy can boost the economy more. Okay, as we said before, that we usually have this debate, between spending hikes and tax cuts when our economy got in trouble in history. Okay, so that's why that's a justification for our government to come in to the markets and do something, right? So here we got to say that if the ultimate goal is really to boost the economy, to pull the economy out of the recession and help it recover as quickly as possible, then we got to talk about this, right? Which one can boost the economy more? Now, to understand this, we have to introduce a very important economic concept, which is called the multiplier effect. The multiplier effect. Okay, and the multiplier effect would be discussed later when we talk about the Keynesian economics. Okay, later this semester, I mean. But here, since we already discussed this policy choice between spending hikes and tax cut, I do want to give you guys a more thorough discussion, okay, of this comparison. So this discussion about the multiplier effect, you won't be able to find it in the third chapter in the book. Okay, so this is extra things we introduced here. Now, I'm going to use a numerical example to show the difference, if any, between the two policies. Okay, and this is a hypothetical example, okay? And so that we can keep the numbers as simple as possible. Okay, but in terms of the intuition, we believe it should be pretty realistic. Okay, now again, in this table, you find the two columns. The blue one are the spending hikes. We said it's usually preferred by Democrats. That's why we used blue. Okay, and the red one are tax cuts. Okay, preferred by Republicans. Okay, and to make a apples to apples comparison, we keep the size of the two effects the same. It's $100 million, okay, spending hikes, and $100 million tax cut. Okay, now here, what's going on in this table is let's start with spending hikes. Okay, this column. So if the federal government wants to spend more, okay, like $100 million more, now they got to spend it somewhere, right? Let's say they want to build a new intersection, the interstate highway, let's say, okay, and or any segment of the interstate highway, and they're gonna spend $100 million, okay, and Jack, the general contractor, who got this contract, who is gonna do the construction project for the government. Okay, so Jack or his company would receive this $100 million payment from the federal government. Okay, now once Jack successfully bid the contract, then he realized that his company doesn't have enough construction equipments. Okay, and they need to purchase more. Okay, to finish the construction project. So his company actually spent $80 million purchasing all kinds of the equipments. Let's say, just to make our discussion easier, let's say they just purchased $80 million trucks. Okay, And these trucks are actually manufactured by Connor, okay, the truck maker, or his company, right? Now, in here we find that Connor's company is going to receive $80 million payment from Jack, okay, and in return, Connor is going to make that many trucks, okay, for Jack. Now, when Connor get this contract from Jack, he realized that he or his company has to make a lot of trucks, so they need to buy raw materials. Let's say steel. Okay, then Connor's company spends $64 million purchasing steel. Okay, and the steel is made by Grace or her company. Okay, and when Grace gets the payment from Connor, and she feels like the life is great, right? She makes a lot of money, and she's gonna treat herself better by purchasing a yacht, okay, and the mid-size or big-sized sailboat, okay. So she actually spent $51.2 million on that boat, that sailboat. So it must be a pretty fancy one, okay. And as you can see, this kind of the chain effect will go on and on and on. Okay, and so the next round, you could say that Rachel, the yacht manufacturer, received this $51.2 million payment from Grace, and Rachel is gonna spend some more. Okay, either purchasing a raw material, purchase something for herself, right, or his family, whatever. So again, this could go on and on. And let's just cut it from here, okay? And to simplify our analysis, okay? Because what we have already shown here should be good enough for us to understand this multiplier effect, okay? Now, several things I want to leave with you guys to figure out before our next class meeting. Okay. Now, the first thing is to figure out the total change in output. Okay, because of what happened, listed here, Y, which is a national output, has been increased or decreased by how much. Okay, this is what you need to figure out. And finally, you also need to figure out the multiplier. Now, the multiplier is defined as delta Y, which is a change in output, divided by delta G, which is a change in government spending. Now, delta Y you have to figure out from here. Delta G is already given here in the title line of the table, because the government increases its spending by $100 million. Okay, so delta G is 100 million, and you need to figure out delta Y to get the value of the multiplier. Okay, all right. And let's look at the second column here. Now, to simplify our analysis, we're assuming that exactly the same would happen here, except at the very beginning, because by cutting taxes, the federal government doesn't need to do anything. Like in the previous case, we said the government has to build the new interstate highway or a segment of it. So that it can get this $100 million spent, right? But for tax cut, they just simply a transfer of the tax dollars from the government office to our pockets, right? The private businesses in the households. Okay, so what happens is here, let's assume that the federal government cuts taxes by $100 million, and in this oversimplified case, okay, we're gonna assume that Jack, the general contractor, who runs a construction company, receives these $100 million, okay, as a tax cut. I know this sounds crazy in reality, but let's state this, okay, to simplify our analysis. In real world, you could guess that this $100 million would be shared by many private businesses and households. Okay, and so when Jack received this $100 million tax cut, his company would still go ahead and purchase $80 billion trucks. Okay, probably they believe that the economy is going to be better under this tax cut policy, so they want to be prepared for more projects ahead of time. Okay, so they purchased $80 billion trucks, and these trucks are made by Connor. So when Connor's company made $80 million, they are gonna spend $64 million on purchasing steel, okay, the raw materials. And when Grace, the steel maker, receives $64 million payment from Connor's company, Grace is going to spend $51.2 million on that pretty fancy sailboat. Okay. Now, what you guys need to figure out is, again, the total change in output. Is that the same as before under the spending hike policy? If it's not, then how different? And what should be the total change in output? And what should be the tax cut multiplier? Okay, and once you figure this out, you can make a comparison, okay, quantitatively, like which one is larger. Okay, in other words, which one, spending hike or tax cut, has a larger multiplier effect. Okay, and as we said, a larger multiplier effect means that policy can boost the economy more. Okay, it can generate more business opportunities and creates more jobs down the road. Okay, that's definitely what we want to see. Okay, because that should be the ultimate goal for any government's fiscal policy. Okay, now at our class meeting, we're gonna walk through this together. Okay, figure this out. But I do want you guys to take a chance in trying to figure it out by yourself before we discuss it. Okay, now other than this numerical example, another thing I want you guys to think about is what determines the value of the multiplier, especially by narrowly focusing upon this table, and especially these these hypothetical numbers I created. I'm not sure when I just discuss this, you already realize that I follow some rules to create these numbers. Starting from 100, and then it becomes 80 and 64 and 51.2. Okay, and these rules are not just mathematical things, but there's also economic intuition behind it. Okay, so I want you guys to again give this a try and trying to figure out what is the economic intuition behind the creation of these numbers in the table. Okay, and once you figure that out, again, think about what determines the multiplier effect. Okay, in other words, how large or small the multiplier effect depends upon what. Okay, because that's super important for our policymakers. Okay, as we said, we want the multiplier to be as large as possible. So how could we change the determinants of the multiplier to be able to maximize the efficiency of our government fiscal policy? Okay, so again, once you figure that out, you should have the answer, like who wins the second round, Democrats or Republicans. Okay, again, we're gonna discuss this during our class meeting, and in the next video, we're gonna move on and talk about the round 3 and round 4, okay, and see who wins and who loses. All right.